Welcome to Flex with Purpose, the podcast that explores what it means to move towards our highest potential, not for applause or personal gain, but to strengthen others and make the world a better place. I'm your host, Schalee Sanchez. Each podcast is designed to have a conversation with someone who lives boldly, leads authentically, and allows humility to guide their impact. I am so excited you're here today. We have a fabulous guest with us. Vivien Tran is an incredible woman who embodies these qualities. She has a heart of gold, and I'm so excited for you to get to hear some of her story. Vivien, welcome to Flex with Purpose. We're so glad that you're with us today.
Thank you, Schalee. I appreciate you having me. I really am. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
It has been a while since I've seen you, actually. I think the last time that I saw you in person was at Mason Murphy's Run the Hills Challenge. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, that hill challenge. That was pretty brutal. That took me back to our CG days. I loved it. And it was so great to catch up with you back then.
Right.
But yeah, I think that was like a couple of years ago. So I think a lot's happened since then.
Yes, it absolutely has. And so I'm really excited to hear what has occurred for you in the last couple of years. But yes, we got started together. We first met at Camp Gladiator doing a workout up in Addison Circle Park. And since that time, I've gotten to just watch this incredible and inspiring and impressive journey that you've been on. So thank you for being willing to share some of that today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Looking forward to this conversation. This is great.
Okay, we're going to get started talking a little bit about a misconception of humility is that in order to be humble, you need to avoid sharing your achievements. You need to avoid talking about the cool things that you've done, the impressive accomplishments that you've had. And actually, true humility is a way that we get to share the accomplishments with humility, and it makes it an incredibly inspiring and powerful opportunity for others to see what's possible for them. But just highlight for us some of the most meaningful accomplishments that you've had in your life up to this point.
I feel like I've gone through different eras of myself since youth. I was a musician. I was a musician all the way from 6 years old through college. So whether it was piano and me being a percussionist from middle school through college, that took a lot of hard work, long hours, and discipline. And I think that built a foundation for me. I credit all of my success to what I learned in music. That has carried me into in a more fitness realm. One of the things that I love to highlight is that whenever I graduated college and I was just crushing my career, going through it, trying to be more of a professional, Camp Gladiator came by and did a lunch and learn. And that fascinated me, that intrigued me. And I really wanted to get involved in it. And it evolved into this community. That's great that we were all just here for our fitness, just to be part of a bigger community. But then it led to me kind of finding a little bit more of my potential in myself on like a physical aspect, because I've always pursued things like through music or through academia when it was something that was more within my control, things that I knew that I had to put the discipline and the work in. Those highlights started to appear to me in a more competitive realm. You know what? Some of the highlights were actually some of the failures. I remember in 2018 is when I started Camp Gladiator. CG Games, the tryouts for CG Games was that July, and I failed miserably. I don't think I was even within the top 100 female athletes. And it was very humbling. It really was, absolutely zero ego. And I think from there, there's people that had been with me since the beginning that saw that and watched me evolve. That really like cascaded into something that has brought me to win CG Games in 2020, has led me to, 2 fourth place events over in CG Games in 21 and 22. And then it evolved into an OCR career, more of an alter ego, not an actual career. I don't do it professionally. However, it's that has been 4.5 years of just tremendous work, pushing myself to my physical potential. So some of those highlights included 21 elite podiums that I've won. Let's see, getting to travel internationally to Costa Rica and to Sweden for my world championships and to be part of a national team and to serve them. And so that's some of the biggest things. And we can dive into those a little bit more if you have questions about that, Schalee.
Yeah, there are a few of those that I want to come back to, but you mentioned something that I think is so important and I think can really benefit our listeners today. You mentioned that failures have been some of your biggest highlights. Can you explore that a little bit with us and what you've learned about failure in your journey?
Absolutely. When it came to the time around CG games, I was always mindful of my health. But I wouldn't have considered myself athletic. And so any of the times that, I saw myself that, I was nowhere near like the top females. I was, it's just struggling, just trying to keep up. Those are the teachable moments that showed me like, do I want this or not? What am I willing to invest my time and myself and things that I can control? And that was important. I mentioned before to different people that, if things came easy to me, I would have taken them for granted. Absolutely, I would have. I like how much I've been able to evolve in my sport OCR because of, the times when I've had ripped hands, the times that I've had DNFs, or whenever you do not finish a race because you can't get through all the obstacles, or you can't get to the very end and the time limit. It drives you, right? It drove me to work harder, and I think that is something that I'm hoping many people, especially within your audience, can truly embrace, because that's really the time when you grow and you build character, is whenever you see like you are not at your best. You're not even near where your potential, what you think you should be at. And you find out a little bit more that the small victories that you pursue can end up becoming big victories. Like a lot of the small things, I was just like, okay, just get through this obstacle, just try to finish within this time limit. It's like it's propelled me into these bigger victories that I couldn't believe that I've achieved.
That is something that isn't easy to do. And as I'm listening, I hear you say, when you first did CG games, you didn't even finish in the top 100. And then you've had these DNSs. And each time, has it gotten easier to bounce back from a failure? Or how has that progression been for you? What was it like that first time when you didn't finish in the top 100? Was it this, moment of, oh, well, I'm not good at this. I'm going to just quit. This is not my thing. Did you have any of those kind of thoughts, and what kept you going in that direction and motivated you to push to continue in that direction?
When you asked, does it get easier? Unfortunately, the answer is no. And I want to be honest about that. It's it doesn't get easier from the failures, but it gets easier the more time and discipline that you put in the work. I mean, I think that is the better perspective to look at it, because failing is hard. Seeing that you've missed the mark is hard. And then something that's important too is that this wasn't done in an island. This wasn't done in solitude. Like I had so much encouragement from the people that I surrounded myself with. And I think that's why Camp Gladiator, and that's why the OCR community has been so impactful, because you find like-minded people and you find that they're all driven, and all the people around you, especially if they're in the same competition, they know the struggles that you've gone through. They know the work, they know the nutrition, the sleep, those small things, and you can apply it to whatever it is. It doesn't have to be sports, but they understand how much it takes to try to succeed. And I know everybody can't get on the podium, everybody can't get first place, but everybody can strive to be at their best, their personal best. And that's the most important goal that I found for myself.
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that's what we're here for. We're here for this community of each of us reaching our highest potential, and that's going to look different for each of us. But so often we look at somebody else, and if anybody goes and watches any of your videos that are online, They are going to see you as being this impressive athlete, an elite athlete who makes it look so easy. And so to hear you say it actually doesn't get easier, you just learn the consistency of the discipline that enables you to keep going. I think that that's really an encouragement for people at whatever stage of their journey that they're on, and being able to have that perspective of, okay, I'm not going to reach this level of this feeling easy. I'm just going to cultivate this consistency and the discipline of being able to push through those moments.
Yeah, because if it came easy, I think a lot of people wouldn't embrace the challenge, right? I think we love pursuing these things because they're not easy, because things that are special, it is supposed to be a rarity. It's supposed to be, it's not average, right? Whenever you succeed and you push through those and you try to attain your goals, you're doing something that's asking more of yourself than just if you just rolled out of bed and tried accomplishing it, right? It's like, I think human nature thrives on being challenged.
Yes, that's when growth occurs. And
Hmm.
I love how you're highlighting that specific aspect. So let's jump into that a little bit. How you were in Camp Gladiator, you did CG games, you did some other things, and that led you into the OCR community and starting to compete in those events. And what was it like for you at the beginning, making that transition? Was it challenging for you in terms of, did you ever say, I don't know if I can do this?
Oh, absolutely. There were a lot of days that were like that. When I transitioned, so it was Kevin Harkins who who saw how well I was doing in CG and CG games, and he thought that I would do really well in OCR. And I at the time had no idea what obstacle course racing was, or just how invested people had been doing it since like 2011. And so when he invited me to my first OCR event in May of 2021, at first, especially whenever I was in the open wave, and so we decided to run together, but we went after the elite athletes. And so the elite athletes were stuck and bottlenecked at this one obstacle. And so Kevin and I got to the obstacle. We're like, okay, well, it's our turn now because they're letting other people through, and we get through it in our first try. And so there's, I think when people have something that they want to pursue, there is kind of this, you gravitate towards it because you find out that you're interested in it, or you do have some kind of natural like talent towards it. But then, you go further along, right? You go further along in the race or whatever activity you're doing, and you find out, bam, that was very hard. I need to work on that. That was like a lot of the overhead rigs that I had to do where there was like different grips or like suspended ropes where I absolutely had no grip strength or endurance. And those were the moments where I'm like, wow, I love this. I love the idea of this. I love how much this excites me. But as I got further into other races and other distances, I ended up seeing like how challenging and how technical things got. And
Mhm.
when you asked me like were there moments where I don't think I can do this, like when your hands are bleeding and when you're stuck at an obstacle for over 2 hours, you're like, you think you can't do this. Like you were never going to even win, like even like forget winning the race. You can't even complete the race. Um and those are the moments, honestly, like whenever and you mentioned that, you see these videos of me and like or these photos of me and I'm doing really well. That really comes from learning from all those times whenever it was hard. It's like how much that influences you and sticks with you is is more than anything of like learning how to do really well, because you don't want to be back in that position, right? And that all cultivates into this this part of me that I bring along to all the events that I've done and to my work life professionally. And it's like being able to embrace all of that has led me to all these successes. So I yeah, no, I think a lot of days, many people like myself, I think I can't do something, but I'm so invested and probably stubborn that I need to, I feel like I need to continue. I want to continue.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being authentic about all of this. And there's some other things, though, that you brought into this story, particularly that I think are really valuable. One of the things is you talked about Kevin and him seeing the potential in you and inviting you into an OCR race. And it brought me back to a moment, if you remember back in um, the year that CG Games was virtual, and they had
Hmm.
it divided up into 4 different events, and they allowed us to do each event twice, and then we could submit our best time. So it was, I think, event 3, and I had completed my time, and then I had an opportunity the next weekend to go and redo it because I really felt like I could get a better time. And you met me out there on the
Hmm.
track. You coached me through it. You were encouraging me the entire time. And I knocked 3 whole minutes off of my time with you being there as an encourager and coaching me through it. It was such an incredible victory for me. And those kind of moments when there's somebody else there that increases our level of accomplishment, I think are really, really meaningful. So, can you share some of those other moments when there's been someone else step in and join you in one of those meaningful victories that you've had?
I don't even know where to begin, where to credit a lot of people in this journey. I think about all of our trainers back in CG. I think about the people that we worked out with, yourself. Just yeah, it really is. It's a whole family and community of people. That's the type of drive that I continued to provide to people even within the OCR community because I do realize like for myself, I wanna bring up Maurice. He saw me fail because he brought me onto the team for CG Games. He wanted to be part of their team, and I was their weakest link. And but he never once saw that I was like a liability or like a weak link. Like he saw my progression like since day one. And and he always believed in me. Still to this day, always encouraged me. And so, people like that come into your life and like see the potential in you, it's so valuable. And one of the things that has evolved for me, even within obstacle course racing, is that this year I got to go to Sweden, and not only did I get to compete as an elite athlete, I'm also part of the board of directors for USA OCR and the communications chair, and I am their team mom. I've come to become this team mom to help everybody with everything that they need to know. I got all the snacks and hydration, even though I needed to go warm up and like race. And I was there for everybody. I was recording people. I was coaching them through how to get through the obstacles and which grips that they need to go after. To me, that was very fulfilling. And I imagine that's kind of like how trainers are for their athletes. Like that's something that I to this day still do for others. And I think that's definitely more fulfilling than my own victories.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that, and I'm a little surprised. I didn't realize that you were the team mom for for that time, but it just really shows again, and I say this all the time, you have a heart of gold, but it shows how you see these opportunities to give to other people and lift other people up and be that support that other people need. And you mentioned this, but then you end up like being so fulfilled by that. It ends up filling
Mhm.
you up. And on the most recent podcast interview that I did, that was something that the personal trainer I interviewed, Patrick, he was talking about how, when he stepped into these moments to encourage someone else and lift someone else up, he ends up receiving back just a ton from them and being inspired by them even more than he offered to them. So,
It truly is fulfilling. I don't know. I was asked recently about like what's my passion and pride with being a part of the USA OCR national team. And that was the first thing I jumped to because it's just like it's so different when you step back and you realize that you're part of something bigger than yourself. You get to help other people succeed. You get to see the joy and the hard work and just like their tears of joy. And it's just like it's really amazing, in fact. And so I felt the same way when I was coaching you in that third event. And so it's just it changes you.
Yeah, it does. There's something really indescribable about seeing someone else succeed and you getting to be a part of that happening. So I can totally relate to that as well. But I want to also give you an opportunity, Vivien, because as you mentioned, this is not your career. You don't do OCR racing entirely. You have a career aside from that. So, talk to us a little bit about how you balance that. Like, what is your training like? What is a typical day for you?
Well, it's my volume has increased a lot more. I've gone through a couple of coaches and different avenues of increasing my fitness. Man, my most recent change has been phenomenal because I've had a fantastic 2025 OCR season. So I work as a corporate environmental scientist for a mining and chemical company, United States Lime and Minerals. And so I am part of a 3-person environmental team, and our whole goal is to maximize production for all of our different plants, but keep them in bounds of any of the EPA and state environmental regulations. And so that's the big summary. It can be a very demanding job. The non-sexy stuff is like, okay, I got to do the day-to-day compliance and periodic compliance, but there's a lot of strategy and risk management and a lot of analysis involved. And so a lot of times I travel. So when I balance my training, a lot of times it's like, okay, I got to wake up early in the morning and I got to, complete anywhere between 8 to 16 mile runs. And that could be easy runs, that could be interval threshold training runs. It's a variety of stuff. And then I do strength training 2 to 3 times a week. And then I also go to the ninja gym and I also rock climb. So it depends on the day what I'm doing, but sometimes it leads up to being doubles. One could say like, okay, well, that's probably a life dictated by someone who doesn't have kids, and that's true. I don't have kids. I feel so fortunate that I do have a company that is very supportive in these goals that I have. And they too are inspired. And so like if there's mornings that my runs have to be longer, like I can come in later, but I stay later. A lot of my recovery is dictated like, look, I can't go out and party anymore. I can't, one, because I'm 37 years old, but two, because I probably have a long run the following morning. And you realize, regardless of what's going on in someone's life, I know some of the best athletes I know are moms and are nurses, and they work at the burn ward as a nurse, or they have 6 kids, right? If you're passionate about something, you're going to make time for it. I mean, that's the truth. Like if you think that, oh, if I get more time, I'm going to do more work, I can accomplish more. And that's not true. It's whenever you're at the busiest is when you really know how much you will dedicate time to something that you care about. I wholeheartedly believe that. Like don't wait for more time. Like make the time for it. You're going to have to compromise. I would hate to say sacrifice, because because everything is a choice, right? So everything that I've done up to this point in my life has been a choice of the things that I thought were important for me. A lot of times, like within just a typical day, it's training, it's work, it could be more training, it's taking care of things that I need to do at home, and then it's sleep and just rinse and repeat. Because I love racing so much and I love being a part of my OCR community. On top of me doing that, like I'm also like doing things in the background for USA OCR and our national team. And again, it goes back to I care about this community. I care about our athletes. That that's kind of the typical day that I end up living.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you mentioned in their sleep. I'm glad that you do allow yourself time to rest and recover. But also, I think that you highlighted something that all of us have experienced to one degree or another. And so it's good to be reminded of it, that as you dedicate yourself passionately to something, then it has a ripple effect in the other areas of your life. It doesn't take away from that. It actually enables you to excel in those areas as well. Have you experienced a correlation of that as you've been on your own journey?
Absolutely. I see that in work. Because my job can be very stressful, it can be very demanding, especially when we have big compliance events that roll around. You think about like, okay, these are going to be long nights. It is going to require me to do manual labor. It's going to require me to make big decisions for the company and follow through with it. And everything I learned, like I mentioned, in music and from everything I've learned through obstacle course racing and just from training, it translates very well because yourself in duress, like you just, it triggers something in you. It's almost kind of like a survival mechanism. You realize that every challenge that you go through, it's like it can take you back to those stressful moments that you've endured, but you were able to overcome.
Okay, so I'm going to shift a little bit right now. We've been talking and focusing on humility. Now, the counterpart of that is arrogance and an elevated ego. And even though you have a heart of gold, everyone experiences at some point an impact or an influence of arrogance, or having either witnessing it in a situation or being the recipient of someone else having an ego, or in ourselves struggling with that. So, can you share with us a moment when you have learned through that kind of experience?
I have been on both sides of that coin of witnessing other people's arrogance and then having to actually battle my own ego. And on the side where it was my ego, I think it goes back to the frustration felt when I think, oh, I should have been on the podium. I knew I could have done better. And
Mhm.
I knew that if I didn't do this one thing, or if I would have just pushed myself, like the results would have been different. Or look, we're in an age of social media, right? And so there's like we post things about ourselves too. So there's kind of a promotion of your own ego as well. On the flip side, though, I've remembered being very young in OCR and the elite athletes that I saw and then the start corral, they weren't very friendly, or they would be very negative at the finish line because they thought like it wasn't their performance. It was something wrong with how the race was structured. This is the fault of the race director, that they should have like this should have been different, and I would have succeeded if you didn't do this. You know, on both sides of the coin, when you're in that situation, you really do have to take a step back. I remember whenever I felt like, within my own ego, that I could have had different race results. And you know what? Maybe I could have. But one of the things that makes it different, makes the experience different for racing, is that you get to celebrate the people who did well, and they did well on their terms. And then you get to celebrate that because you got beat by the best. You were able to get to where you are, but hey, they did better than you, and I think it should be celebrated. Like you realize then that you have so much more work to do, and it's like they worked their butts off to get to that point. So, when you flip the script like that, you you see that like, hey, this is kind of a positive thing whenever you get to step back. And then unfortunately for witnessing it on the other people, I mean, you like I make this decision whether I take what their thoughts are with a grain of salt and I just, steer clear from them, or just try to be
Mhm.
the positive person within the community to try to make the narrative to where it's like, hey, this was really unfortunate. Maybe there was something wrong with the race course, or maybe there was something wrong with the situation, but like let's talk about it. Let's try to fix it. Instead of just creating a whole spread of drama. So yes, both sides of the coin have definitely happened, but there can be positive outcomes from it.
Yeah, there's things that you've learned, and one of the things that I'm hearing is that you make a choice to celebrate others, and that helps you stay grounded, in your own character. Are there other things that you've found really valuable that keep you grounded, or practices that you do on a regular basis, other than celebrating other people's wins?
You know, I'm my own toughest critic, and so that probably keeps me the most grounded, to be honest. So it's like it is supporting all the other people. It is recognizing my failures. It's and also just realizing too that there's other bigger things going on in life, right? Like yes, racing and yes, being an athlete is important to me. I do spend a lot of my time in that, but the world, is still turning. The world, there's still so many things and good and bad things going on in the world, and so
Mhm.
that keeps me grounded too. That hey, there's even bigger things that you should think about, and that I am very fortunate to be an athlete in this space. That's definitely what keeps me in a more humble mindset.
Right, not getting tunnel vision of your
Yeah.
life being everything that exists, but
Yeah,
being able to
exactly.
see, take a step back and be able to see, what else is happening is so important.
Hmm.
Okay, Vivian, we have a few more minutes left, so I want to give you the opportunity to either share one more story that you've like, it hasn't fit into any of the questions that I've asked you yet, and you're like, I really want to talk about this, or just to wrap up with like one final truth that you would like for the listeners to take away from this.
Kind of a final thought for the audience and listeners is just that give yourself a lot of grace in whenever failures do come. It's like, and you're allowed to be sad, disappointed, frustrated, angry, because those feelings are real. But everybody has a choice into deciding what they're going to do with it, because there is this paralysis that occurs, and I get it, and it's like it's easier to walk away. It's easier just like, hey, let's find something else that will work better for me. But if it's something that you truly want to go after, like give it another shot. Find Talk to people that already are doing it really well. Like we're talking about this theme of humility, like observe what other people are doing, talk to
Mhm.
all these experts, but then like be teachable, listen, embrace the fact that there's so much more to learn about anything that you're pursuing, and that's the only way that we can all grow. I hope like anybody within their own personal journeys are going through that can really embrace that, and find the people that are within that space that can help keep you accountable and support you. That's one of the bigger things as well. So I hope that helps.
Yes, I think that you just wrapped everything up beautifully to end it and really appreciate those last statements. Some really nuggets to take away, for our listeners that I know will be significant for them. So thank you very much. I'm thrilled, Vivian, that you joined us, that you said yes to this invitation. And it's been such a joy to be able to have this conversation with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome, Shalay. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate this.